let's talk about the World of Goo. First of all, what is it? Well, the World of Goo is a physics-based puzzle game made by 2 people. It's pretty remarkable. Originally released for the Wii and the PC way back in 2008. Now it's on Switch and mobile. So, of course, this is a review of the Switch version, which is the same as all the other versions. It comes critically acclaimed, although I already knew that because I have the original on the Wii, and I love it. Alright, let's talk about story. So, the story is very simple, and really there's not much story at all. There is, but it's very, very basic. Charming storytelling through exposition and occasional cutscenes is where you get the backbone of what's going on. And the game is actually self-aware and kind of breaks the fourth wall sometimes through messages left by the mysterious and hilarious NPC known as the Sign Painter. And it's also just very funny. Alright, let's talk about the gameplay. And the basics of gameplay include using goo balls to build towers, bridges, and other various structures to make it to the exit and retrieve as many goo balls as possible. And there are various, very cute, might I add, goo species that have different abilities. The basic goo balls are just black and gooey, some are more rigid, some catch fire to solve elemental puzzles, some are as hard as bone and they can't get splattered by blades or spikes. Speaking of which, some are spiky goo balls that grab onto things, and there are also balloon goos. In the beginning, simple puzzles show you the basics of how to play the game, but it does get very challenging the more you play. So the controls are actually really tight, and they just feel super good, most of the time. On the Switch version, I had issues with the Joy-Con just dropping connection, and in rather annoyingly constant need of recalibration. Luckily, the recalibration is really easy to do. It's just press the plus or the minus button depending on which Joy-Con you're using. But I had to do it constantly. And sometimes if I was playing on TV, it would just spaz out for no reason at all. Didn't happen too often, but often enough that I really need to let you guys know about it. I've never had my Joy-Cons drop connectivity or have any other issues with any other of the games that I've owned and played, so I know it's a World of Goo issue. The Switch version also supports touch control, which works perfectly if you're on the go. There's a wide variety of elemental puzzle solving based off of the goos you have at your disposal. And there's a lot of different ways to solve the puzzles because of the goo species. So there's more to it than just puzzles. There's also physics, and the physics are pretty good. You just really got to watch out for gravity. If you don't build your tower or your bridge just right, it'll fall over and all your goo balls will die, and then you'll have to start over. Although there are these little like fairy goo balls that you can click to go back a few steps if you mess up. But sometimes you need to use gravity in your favor in order to solve a puzzle. Either way though, each level makes you feel great after you complete it, especially after the more challenging puzzles. Also, each stage has an OCD challenge attached to it to fulfill certain requirements, like obtaining a certain amount of goo balls at the end or completing the puzzle in less than a certain amount of steps, etc. Some of these I completed by accident, but the first time I played the level, but most of these are going to be actually pretty challenging, and you have to think in a different way to complete these OCD challenges. The game also has a basic online component called World of Goo Corporation, where the extra goo balls you get at the end of each stage you get in this mode, and basically use those goo balls to build as high of a tower as you possibly can. And there are like some basic leaderboards and stuff to see other people that have built towers, and that's pretty much it. But it's a cool little extra to keep you busy outside of the story. So yeah, the gooey, or should I say the gooey? There's actually a component later on, chapter 4, that gets all computer graphicsy, and it's actually pretty funny. But overall, the actual user interface and the menus itself are really simple, really clean, and they're just really, really good. The camera is controlled by where the goo pointer goes. One unfortunate thing, maybe not, I'm not sure, is that there is no way to zoom in and out because some of these puzzles do get pretty big, and it would be really great to be able to zoom in and out because sometimes it can be a bit of a drag when you have to keep scrolling back and forth to grab your goo balls. So the graphics and the music are probably the best thing that World of Goo has to offer, with brilliantly hand-drawn graphics and animations, very Dr. Seuss-y, Tim Burton-esque. It's funny, I've mentioned Tim Burton's art style in the past 3 reviews, but that's just a testament to his art style. It's very awesome. The world is pretty big, spread across 4 gorgeous, unique settings and environments, and as well as an epilogue. And each of these 4 worlds and epilogue have their own style and music that blend together perfectly. 10 years ago, it was pretty mind-blowing to think that this game was a downloadable game, because it has such incredible finesse on the characters and the drawing and the art style and the music and the writing and everything. And, well, that's thanks largely in part to the 2-man team. Remember I mentioned that earlier? Well, one of those men, Kyle Gabler, not only designed the game, but he also wrote the story. He illustrated the game, he drew everything and all the animations, and he created the entire soundtrack, which is just absolutely incredible. The soundtrack, which of course I've had on my iTunes for many, many years, but he actually made this available to download, which you can visit his website by clicking the link in the description. Please go download this soundtrack, you won't be sorry. And not only can you freely download it, but the soundtrack is actually included with the game. So let's take a listen to some of those tracks. And it goes without saying that the sound design is also perfectly refined. I love how when you move the goos around, they make all sorts of different sounds when you place them or throw them, as well as sad sounds of death if they splatter or fall off the screen. Alright Yoshi, it's time to wrap up. Basically, World of Goo has brilliantly designed puzzles that are simple but challenging. Later puzzles aren't easy, but you know what you need to do and they are hard enough to challenge your thinking. Which goo balls do I use and when? How do I build this correctly? As well as anticipating environmental aspects like gravity and fire. World of Goo is wonderfully whimsical and a charming package. So let's talk about the good stuff. Well, literally everything about this game is great. Seriously, it's just such a perfect game. There are a few bad things. Maybe the camera zoom, not really that big of a deal. which is something I noticed. The only issue I really had with this version of the game was issues with the Joy-Cons. It's whether they were spazzing out, losing connection, or just the constant need of recalibrating. Overall, in my opinion and recommendation, World of Goo is a game that needs to be experienced by everyone.